All right, hello, folks. Welcome to Cloud Asta's web series. This session is about getting the most out of Google Drive for end users. My name is Nick Marchese, Director of Academic Technology at an independent school in New York. The purpose of this series is to provide education and training resources for admins and users, whether you are a member of the Cloud Asta community or not. And today we're focusing on Drive for end users. We've done something about a couple weeks ago for Drive for admins. So I recommend go and look that up if you're interested in that as well. And we have some upcoming workshops that we'll talk about towards the end. If you have any questions, you can email webinars@cloudasta.com and somebody will get back to you. We'll revisit that email address towards the end of our presentation. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So some of the topics we're going to cover today is just some Drive basics, talking about offline access, Drive for desktop, Office editing, and then just going to go over a list of some really awesome training resources that Google already provides, so you should be checking out. So we're going to do a little demo and talk about a couple things. So I just want to talk about what basics we can demo in a moment. So there's a bunch of default Drive settings, configuration preferences that I recommend changing kind of from straight out of the box. And that's a way for you to be able to see more things and feel like you have more control over your Google Drive. I'll show you that in a minute. Well, then I'll go through some basics of uploading, how you upload files, how you upload folders, and how do you preview some of those files, what are your basic menu functionality, and then talk a little bit about folders, how to create folders, how to nest folders, how to color folders, then what are shortcuts, we'll talk a little bit about shortcuts, and then shared drives. Just an interesting thing I want to note about shared drives is that they are not available for all SKUs. I've got a list of the supported editions up on the screen here. So if you are interested in learning more about shared drives or upgrading so that you can have shared drives for your domain, you can email us, webinars@cloudasta.com. We're happy to answer some of those follow-up questions that you may have after today. All right, so I'm going to switch over to my instance right now and just talk a little bit about Drive. So some of those basic configuration things that I would recommend. Here you're seeing kind of what it looks like when you get started, aside from a few pop-ups. You got a lot of big tiles here, and sorry about that. A lot of big tiles here, and there's not a lot of things that you can see on one screen. I like to see a lot of things on my screen at once. So what I like to do is immediately go into the settings tab here. I do this with all new users that I onboard. Click at the settings button. So a couple of the things. If I scroll all the way down to the bottom, these suggestions. So these suggestion boxes right here talks about show suggested files in my drive and show suggested files in share with me. What these are these things up at the top here. And basically, Google is just trying to surface what they think you want to be looking at or what has come up recently for you. If you like that, keep it on. If you want to just be able to see more, if you're like me, you can uncheck both of these and all of these, and we can go ahead and hit that, and you'll see that all that goes away. So now all of a sudden I can see a lot more stuff. Obviously, I don't have a lot in this drive, but I can see a lot more stuff right here, right now. The other thing is if I have a lot of, let me see if I go a little bit further in, right, into any of these files, any of these folders here, I have these big thumbnail-y looking things for my files. So really, you're only gonna be able to see, 8, 10 maybe files at a time. So if you've got a lot of files here, it's gonna be really hard to keep it on this thumbnail version. So I recommend switching it from this grid version to a list view. It'll look a little bit more familiar if you're navigating on your computer to have that sort of road list, to be able to see a lot more things at once. And then lastly, if I go back into my settings here, there's two more things I want to note. This density is basically how tight all of your menus are. So how much spacing is between all of your file names, between all of the buttons on the side. It's on right now. I have it on comfortable. You can see we also have cozy and compact. So I'm going to kind of go all the way down to compact and done. You can see these are a lot more closer now. So I can see even more things because these are smaller. I'm going to switch back just so you can maybe see that difference. Switch back to this comfortable. And you can see that there's a lot more spacing in here when we have it on comfortable versus compact. So, or compact. So you can go ahead and switch those back and forth and see what fits you best. And the last thing in the settings I want to show here is, and we can circle back to a couple things in a few minutes, is about this convert uploads button. And if you have Word files, Excel files that you want to convert directly into Google Docs formats or into Google Docs, into Google Sheets, and you want to do that for any Microsoft files that you upload, you want to check that button on. And that way, anything that you upload will automatically be converted into that file, into that format. So speaking of upload, how do we upload files? So we see this big old new button up here. It's kind of your one big landing source button. And that's for creating new files. You can go and create a new Google Docs file, Google Sheets file, but also for creating a new folder, which we'll talk about in a second, and uploading files. So if I click upload file here, it'll bring up my upload browser on my computer, and I can select any file and upload it. And similarly, if I click upload file upload, folder upload, it will go ahead and let me upload any folder and all the files in that folder. And remember, if you do check that box in your settings to convert, it will automatically convert those files into Google Docs format. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about just the basic functionality when you're managing your stuff in Drive. So if I highlight and click on any of these files, I'm going to go into my recipes one and click on my secret recipe. If I click this little eyeball up here, I can get a little bit of a preview of what is in the document. You can see it's not so secret because there's nothing in there. But this will give you a preview of the file without opening it in a new tab and all that jazz. So if you want to quickly sort through maybe a couple different versions of a draft or something, and you've got a couple different versions, you're not sure exactly which one, instead of opening them all, you can just click this little eye and preview them, and that would be pretty helpful. Also, if you hit this little different eye, the letter I, and view details, you can see here who it's shared with and what activity there may be with that file. So you can see when permissions were changed, when things were moved, when it was created, and so on and so forth. And then last but not least is probably where you're doing a lot of your things. If I right click or control click or any of that stuff, you can see we got a whole bunch of menu things here. And I just want to focus on a couple of them. Obviously, if we're sharing files, we're going to go into sharing here. You're going to share your files with other folks in your team. We're going to talk a little bit about sharing in a second. If we need to move the file, we can click this and move it around to a different folder. If we need to rename it, click this and it will rename it. If we want to make a copy, if we want to download a version. And lastly, if you need to remove it or trash it. I just want to show quickly about the delete, the remove, and trash. If I were to delete this on purpose, let's say, or maybe on accident, and I want to go ahead and bring that back. If you did it right away, you can grab the undo button, grab the undo button. If not, and it's gone, you can go into your trash, click on that file, and at the top here, you can click this restore from trash. Anything that is in Google Drive trash will automatically be deleted in 30 days. So just kind of keep an eye on that if you accidentally delete something. All right, let's talk a little bit about sharing, and then we'll circle back to folders. So if I want to right-click on this file, I can hit share. I could also click it once and hit the share button up here, the little person and the plus. And then we got a lot of different settings we can do for sharing this file. So I would like to share this file with me, to myself, to my other account. So I'm going to click and share it with myself. And by default, it's saying it's going to make that person an editor, meaning that they can edit the file completely. Or I want to make it so they can only comment, or they make it so they can only view. And also, I want to make it so they can comment. And this will send them an email notification, and I could say, you are a commenter on this file. Or if you want to share something with somebody and not notify them, because you're going to send them a link separately or you do it in a team meeting, you can uncheck this. clicks share, and then they won't get any notification, but it will be shared with them. A different way to share things, if you want to share it with your entire domain or with the public, you can click share with your domain down here, and it will make it so anybody in your domain can view this file if they have the link. Or depending on how your domain is set up, you can change this now to anyone with the link. That means anybody in the world can view this file if they have the link and they can be a viewer. Or if you want to be really bold, obviously they can do other permissions as well. So it's kind of quick rundown of sharing. I want to quickly show off folders. So again, up here, if I want to go and make a new folder, make a new folder for, let's say, cooking photos. And I can go ahead and do a couple of different things. So now I've got a couple of folders here, all kind of food related, right? And cooking related. So I'm going to make a new folder here because I don't want these separated. I want them to be nested together. So I'm going to just make one called cooking. And I'm going to move my recipes folder in cooking, click and drag it inside. I'm going to grab cooking photos and click and drag it inside as well. And now, if I expand out my little menu here on the side, I can see that I have a cooking folder and then nested folders with it. Go into cooking, and I can also right-click on any of these folders and also give them a little bit of color. So I can say cooking photos is red and my recipes is yellow. Again, a nice way to help you keep organized, stay organized. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is about creating shortcuts. So shortcuts are essentially a thing that kind of like we're used to this on a desktop computer, where it's not the place where the file actually resides, it's just a link to where it resides. So it's literally a shortcut to the file. This is really great if you are not an editor or owner on a file. You want to make a shortcut to that file, and if you only have view access on, organize it in your own folder structure. So if somebody in your team shares a file with you, you can only view it. But you want to go ahead and organize it yourself. You can make a shortcut to that drive file and move it around. So I'm going to just show you what that looks like. I can say add shortcut to drive for my recipes, and I will put it within my cooking photos folder just to show you how that works. So now I go into cooking, I go into cooking photos. See, now I have a shortcut. It looks a little bit different here to my recipes folder. If I double click that, it's just moving me back to the actual folder. It's not making a new folder, it's not copying it, it's just redirecting me. And then last but not least is shared drives. Again, we talked a little bit about shared drives. They are really great for working as a team where you have a lot of folks who are all editors on or commenters on everything within here in this folder. And then if everybody happens to leave on that team, the files remain, which is really great for offboarding. So I highly recommend exploring shared drives, especially when you're doing big team group projects. So if I go into here, I can see I have this next webinar shared drive demo, and I can add folders in here just like a normal drive folder and create files, and then I can add people to that within my domain. All right, I'm going to switch on back here. Again, if you have any questions about your particular Google Workspace instance and if it has support for shared drives, please let us know. We're happy to help. All right, I'm going to go through a couple of other things that might be interesting for you. Offline access. Maybe you're going away for the weekend, you're off the grid, but you still want to go ahead and be able to access your drive files and still be able to do some editing and work. Google Drive has this thing called offline access, where if you're using Chrome and you have the extension installed and you kind of do a little bit of the setup, you can go ahead and still work on your drive files offline. It's a common misconception that you can't work on any Google Drive stuff if you don't have an internet connection. So there are a couple of steps that you have to take, and this is all documented on Google's website. I'm kind of just reiterating it for you. You have to be using Drive. You can't be using incognito or private browsing window. You have to install and turn on the Google Docs offline Chrome extension. Your admin can push this out to you, or you can install it on your own. We can share that link later. Making sure you have enough space on your device, which you almost absolutely will, because drive files are very, very small. And then we're going to enable the setting on Drive, and I'll show you what that looks like and how to save files for offline use. So I'm not going to show you how to install the extension right now, but you can see we can click that link. We can install that extension. It just lives within Chrome up here. But I do want to show you how to enable the settings. So if I go back to my Google Drive instance, I can click this little cog at the top, settings, and then right here, back where we were before, there's one more thing that we didn't talk about. It says offline. So this says create, open, and edit your recent Google Docs and Sheets files when you're offline. Check this box. It's gonna say great. Hit done. Down here, it's going to spin for a minute or two. It does take a few minutes to go ahead and for Drive to set that up correctly. So give that a minute or two. And then if I go back to my Drive, let's see how quickly this pulls up for me. Great. Now I can see I can right click on any of my files and toggle this available offline. And it's going to go ahead and say setting it up and all that jazz. We have a little icon here, and then we get this blue check. So now that file I can edit if I have no internet access. And when I come back online, it will sync up with that internet, which is really, really great if you want to go ahead and unplug for a little bit, at least from the web, not necessarily from your computer. So offline access, really, really super, and I highly recommend checking it out. Drive for Desktop. Drive for Desktop, formerly known as file stream and sync and save, and lots of different names. Is now just Drive for Desktop. Sorry, I got a wicked glare going on here. It's available for Windows and Macs, essentially as a way for if you're not super comfortable navigating the Google Drive environment, or you just want to be able to have quicker access from your desktop, you can install this application on your computer, and it can essentially sync down shortcuts to all of your files with the same folder structure, so that you can move stuff around from your desktop and it syncs up the drive. Really, really helpful if you have folks who are still skeptical about using the browser to manage their files, and they really, really like their Finder or their Explorer on their computer. I highly recommend pushing out and trying Drive for Desktop, because this will be really helpful for you. It also works really great if you're working with offline files, because then you can just find those files on your computer and you can go ahead and open them up from your desktop. So Drive for Desktop is just an application download that you can search Drive for Desktop, and there's just a download link, and you can just install that application and sign in with your account, and you're good to go. Office editing. I just want to talk a little bit about office editing. Another thing is if you have folks in your organization, yourself, somebody else in your team, you still love using Excel and Word, but you need to store your stuff in Drive because it needs to be shared with folks, and you need to work on it collaboratively. Pairing Drive for Desktop, which we just went over, and what we call office editing to have the best of both worlds. So what you can do is actually edit Office files both within the browser, which is great. So if you have a Word file that you have stored in Drive and you open it in Drive, you can open it as a Google Doc file or as a Word file within Google Docs to edit those. But if you just want to work in Word and you want to save things in Google Drive, then you can still do that. You can still just say, hey, I'm going to edit my Word files, but as long as I'm saving in my Google Drive folder using Drive for Desktop, then I know it will be synced and shared with everybody who needs to be synced and shared with. So really, you have folks who are like, you know what, I am not using Docs, I'm only using Word, but I can go ahead and store it in a different folder. Then that's fine, because you can still have that folder syncing to Drive and shared with your team. So we can think about the creative ways that we can kind of bridge the gap between folks who are using Workspace exclusively and folks who really want to stick with using Microsoft Word and Excel. And then the last thing for today, which is probably one of the most important things, sorry about that, is training resources. So I got a couple different tabs here that I want to share. The first one is the learning the Drive basics. So if you or your team are switching from OneDrive, from Box, from Dropbox, from just working on your desktop, Google has really super resources available that are specific to the platform you're switching from. So you can see this is just a screenshot of this training page, and it dives into deeper guides to help you out there. We're going to share these links out with the recording, so please check them out. If you're skeptical, like, you know what, I really like Dropbox, I don't know how to do this, or I only want to use stuff, save stuff on my computer, check these guides out and see what the one-to-one comparison is for all of your different workflows. And the last slide here is there are a ton of other resources available. One of the ones that I want to highlight is actually a free online course for Drive through their website. This is a snippet of Introduction to Drive. It has 2 videos, a document, and 1 quiz, just to kind of get you going. And then it has a lot more modules in there. And then there's also a bunch of cheat sheets available. So like on the bottom there, you see a little screenshot of cheat sheet for Drive. So like, where are all the buttons and what do they do? Essentially, they're all just labeled out there for you. So if you're someone who just kind of needs that reminder, go find those cheat sheets, print them out, put them right next to you on your desk, and you can go ahead and refer to them when you need to. They have one for Drive, they have one for Share Drive, and they have one for Drive for Desktop. So there are lots of different options, lots of different resources, and we've curated this list for you so that you don't have to go be digging, because trust me, there are a lot of resources available from Google, and these are the best ones that you should be checking out. So we will share those towards the end. We have some upcoming webinars on September 30th in 2 weeks. We're going to be highlighting the best new Google Workspace features from July and August. We're going to save the things that are in September for the one after that. And then on October 14th for our admins is what is Google Vault and why should I know about it, which will be a really awesome workshop that everybody really should attend. And again, if you have any questions, please email us at webinars@cloudasta.com, and we'll happily reach back out to you with any follow-ups, ways that we can help you anyway. Hopefully this is helpful, and if you have any questions, we hope to hear from you. Thanks a lot.